A person playing a furry red panda avatar criticizing someone who plays a titillated deer on stream. Ironic. So while I'm a little bit late here to the Twitch Safety Advisory Council that's been recently announced, I still want to go over it because I still want to add in my thoughts to the whole situation and potentially give a potential counter insight to most people. Who knows? We'll give it a try here. So for those who somehow don't know and are not here just to confirm your opinions, the Twitch Safety Advisory Council is this brand new council that is going to potentially advise Twitch on various policies or changing current policies to be overall more safe, inclusive, and conducive to a healthier gaming environment, because it's pretty much common knowledge that there's certain online sects of the internet that are pretty toxic sometimes. I mean, anyone who's played a competitive League of Legends or a Dota game can pretty much attest to that fact of how toxic people can be. I mean, you can even see it in the real world with Karens going crazy about wearing masks. But back onto Twitch, this brand new Safety Advisory Council will do a couple of things here. For one, they're going to be drafting new policies and policy updates, developing products and features to improve safety and moderation, promoting healthy streaming and work-life balance habits, protecting the interests of marginalized groups, and identifying emerging trends that could impact the Twitch experience. All of which sound completely reasonable and completely a-okay on their face value. There's nothing really inherently wrong with trying to make Twitch a more healthy and inclusive space because, well, that's just going to be more business for Twitch, that's just going to be more viewers for everyone, that's just going to be potentially more interactions and more friends for everyone else. So really nothing terribly wrong there. It just depends pretty much exclusively on the people and the policies those people produce. And talking about people, for the most part, the people seem to be fairly reasonable. We do have a fairly nice representation here from Twitch actual content creators, as well as just some high-ranking, high-intelligence doctors for some reason that got involved with mudslinging, as well as a couple of CEOs and other miscellaneous groups that are in here. So for the most part, it does seem to be a fairly diverse selection that also includes the people of Twitch, as well as outside help that may be fairly knowledgeable about Twitch itself, and, you know, maybe hate in general, which is terribly useful. However, there may be one person here that is a bit questionable here, ferociously Steph. So let's go ahead and read her bibliography here. Steph has been a full-time streamer since her debut, playing competitive collegiate Heroes of the Storm in 2016. She's one of the first transgender streamers to ever be partnered on Twitch, and the first to bring a transgender pride flag emote to the platform. Her fight for inclusivity includes creating a competitive team composed entirely of marginalized gamers and vehemently opposing non-inclusive mechanics such as voice chat. So right off the bat, we have one policy proposal that Ferociously Steph has sort of pseudo-introduced, but at least has recommended to the broader gaming community, and that is the non-inclusive voice mechanics such as voice chat, meaning that they pretty much want that removed. Now, if you don't know, voice chat is pretty much essential in any sort of competitive scene. I mean, even in League of Legends, where they do not allow voice chat, basically all the high-tier players go into their Discord and manage their 5v5 teams through voice chat, because voice chat just confers a huge amount of advantage towards everybody. And the reason why Ferociously Steph opposes this is because people with marginalized voices tend not to have the best experience with voice chat. Not, while they may have no pleasant experience the majority of the time, they also have quite a few experiences where they're just simply harassed. That is not really debatable. That's just purely a fact of the online space. However, at the same time, recommending that you nuke the whole concept of voice chats from video games does not seem like something that would just be an overall benefit to the whole ecosystem. I mean, for one, you have to think about the negative side effects that comes to competitive play. By not having voice chat, you're basically just creating a less fun experience for everybody, not just the marginalized people, but for the potentially millions of other people who play competitive games with voice chat or just play casual games with voice chat. There's also secondary consequences that may be coming from this, mainly being that by cutting off communication in the verbal form, you end up creating a much less personalized experience that's not really conducive to the human experience. So besides creating a much less enjoyable game, you're also just much less likely to interact with people. You're much less likely to form relationships or friend groups with a lot of these people. You're much less likely to get, networking done. So you may not be able to get into competitive teams if you actually talk to people like that. And it's not really necessarily something that is the best to do. I mean, I guess you could think about this in pretty much any other context. Say, for example, cars. Cars are a fairly useful service for able-bodied people, as anyone with functioning limbs can then operate this vehicle that allows them to drive around to any location, allows them to extend their range, go to work at farther places, allow them to get groceries from a better grocer, allows them to get better sources of entertainment, allows them to communicate with friends more effectively. There's a lot of benefits conferred upon being able to drive. But there's a certain sect of people that cannot drive, either due to paraplegia, or due to some mental capacity, or because they're blind, or maybe they're hearing impaired and they can't really hear audible road cues that puts them in a slight danger. So by all means, all of those people, all those marginalized groups, would thus be at a competitive disadvantage towards someone else. At that point, do you just remove the ability to drive? Does everyone have to take public transport? Does everyone have to start biking everywhere instead? I mean, at that point, that would probably be one of the solutions that we propose, at least underneath the same mindset. But at that same point, you've just caused this huge societal harm here that I probably don't even need to explain to the average person here for them to connect the dots as how this would negatively impact pretty much everything. Now, banning voice chat is not really something that's going to be terribly applicable to Twitch. Twitch does not have an onboard voice chat solution like Discord. The only audio that really comes through this is through videos on demand, clips, or whatever the person is live streaming. Now, that being said, if Ferociously Steph keeps going down the same mindset where it's reduce anything, disregardless of all of its huge impacts and positives towards the community, remove anything that could be somewhat negatively impactful towards marginalized groups or particularly affects them in whatever way, and just outright removing that may not be something you terribly want and save the advisory council, because those ideas just generally make Twitch less competitive overall and generally just have a huge negative impact on the overall community, and it's something that you probably don't want to have. Now, if bad ideas were the only thing that Ferociously Steph was just issuing out, that would be one thing, but at the same time, there also appears to be some other issues there. I mean, the most notable one is the taunting and sort of baiting on she's doing to a lot of the people criticizing her for this idea. I mean, you can just go through basically all of her clips on Twitch, and it's basically her either power tripping about X, Y, or Z, or how she's above moderation, or how people should be afraid of her because I'm coming for you, you piece of crap, blah, 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 blah. Or how the opinions of cis white males are not really valid because they're not marginalized and they really can't have an opinion on that. Or there's just a variety of things that Ferociously Steph has been saying that is at least questionable, to put it charitably. And so all of these have given the mindset that Ferociously Steph is more of a political activist that is acting more in a self-interest as opposed to an interest towards a broader community or into a overall community of Twitch. And someone that's going to be affecting the whole website, you probably want someone that can take into consideration everyone's concerns, not just whatever group they are or whatever political leaning that you're going to try to do. Now, that being said, this could all also just be fluff, because you have to actually know here, people who make content, people who are actually posting things online, this is usually the most eccentric and best, or maybe even worst version of themselves, so you can't really say this is actually indicative of their truer, baser nature. For all we know, Steph could actually be way more chill and have way more thought out and way more thoughtful ideas that are actually way more, I would say, overall inclusive and not just politically motivated, that actually come across as, fairly legitimate and good ideas. We just don't know that. That'll actually just depend on what actually they pump out there and who is the actual advocating member who actually drafted this proposal, or, X, Y, or Z. Now, that being said, I'm still a bit worried here, but at the same time, you have to realize that Ferociously Steph is like, what, 1 out of 8 people on this council? So by all means, while she can probably propose a lot of, proposals and policy updates and whatnot, it would still have to be counterbalanced by the other 8 members that may either approve or disapprove it, as long as the fact that Twitch itself would still only take them as advisory. They're not really going to be actually drafting the actual policies of them, especially considering that none of them are lawyers, so probably none of them can actually tread the line of legality quite easily. So that being said, I'm not too worried. It's anything, it's probably just kind of a bad face that Twitch is putting on this whole advisory council by having Ferociously Steph there. So I could see maybe a potential benefit by removing her and actually just creating a much more neutral and impartial advisory council. But at the same time, you may also just end up looking like you're peeving off a bunch of the transgender community, but hard to say for certain. We'll just kind of have to see how these things go. If the advisory council starts pushing out more of these bad ideas, then you know what? I'm more than certain the internet's got their pitchforks already, but that's going to be the last of my thoughts here. What do you guys think about the Twitch Advisory Safety Council, or whatever combination of letters there within? Let me know down below what you think about it. And other than that, guys, I want to thank you all for joining me this evening, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.